I'm the greatest star I am by far. And they fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. Anyway, but I wasn't sure about that. I wasn't sure because that night he took me home. The Monday, I thought he was going to call me at 12 o'clock at night. Now, this is 1 week I know him, right? 12 o'clock at night, I thought he was going to call me. Did not call me. 12:15, did not call me. You know, any one of you waiting for a date to call you up, right? 12:25, didn't call me. 12:30, knock, knock, knock. Okay? I open the door. What are you doing here? If you think I'm going to talk to you all night on the phone, you're crazy. I'm moving in. Now, my father's upstairs in the bedroom. I can't believe it. So he moves in, and my father doesn't say nothing. My father let it happen. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, that's Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. It's like, we're married already. Friday night, my father said, okay, I want to talk to the both of you. Now, this is not even 2 weeks. Not 2 weeks, right? My father has us both come up and sit in the living room. The reason I say come up because I'm in the basement apartment, right? We're sitting in the living room. My father looks at Burton, that my husband's name is Burton. He says, okay, you had my daughter for a week. What do you think? I'm looking like, how could you say this, Daddy? And Burton says, yeah, I like your daughter very much. Well, listen, I have this new girlfriend because my father's second wife died, and so now he was looking for a third wife. And he said, I have this new girlfriend who doesn't want to come and marry me until I get rid of my daughter here. So I got to get her out of the house. So I want you to marry her. I said, Daddy, I just got divorced about a month ago. I just met this guy. It wasn't even a month, all right? I met this guy. I'm only here 2 weeks. I don't even know him that well. How could... I can't have it. You have to move out of the house. I want you to get married. So Burton says to my father, okay, I'll marry her. I says, what, are you kidding me? I don't even know you that well. He says, I'm ready to get married. I'll marry you. So I says, well, wait a minute. I want a big wedding. I want a big Jewish wedding. My father only gave me a little wedding last year in the backyard because he hated the guy. A little Greek wedding, not that big Greek, a little backyard wedding, little refreshments, that was it. And I said, if I'm going to marry a Jew, Daddy, I want the chuppah, I want the whole thing, the sit-down dinner, the orchestra and the whole thing. And Burton says, oh yeah, I'll pay for that. I didn't even know he had money. I says, well, wait a minute, I want a big. He says, yeah, I'll pay for that. So my father looks at him and says, she owes me $1,200 for the divorce. He takes out his checkbook and writes a check for $1,200 and gives it to my father. I was bought. It was done deal. That was Friday. Saturday, we go to these big halls, Leonard's in New York, those big places where they have weddings, And we're sitting down in the room, and I'm thinking, okay, it's not going to be so bad. I got to wait 6 months. Usually you have to wait for them to plan a wedding, right? And I'm sitting there, and while we're talking about what we want, a phone rings. The man picks up the phone, and somebody just canceled for 2 weeks. And the way they do it is when you cancel a wedding, you lose everything. So they owed $500 more to pay off that big, $15,000 wedding. You understand? And they lost it. So he looks at my Burton and says, if you want to take this spot, I'll give it to you for $500. My husband said, I'll take it. I said, wait a minute, 2 weeks? How can you get married in 2 weeks? Are you out of your mind? He says, what are you talking about? I says, how are we going to invite people? He says, are you kidding me? I'm the first one getting married in my family. All I have to do is tell my mom that we're getting married, and the entire family will be there. What, are you kidding me? And you don't need no invitations. I said, well, what about my family? Your family doesn't even know you got a divorce. You wait and just tell them, and they're going to come over to see just for curious. Okay? So that takes care of the invitations. Then I said, okay, but what about my bridal gown? I need a wedding gown. He said, you need a wedding gown? You're a fashion designer. Make it. And so my boss actually gave me a present for my wedding. He gave me a day. Now, what does a day mean? A day means that I could use all those 6 sample hands. They'll work for me for the day. The cutter will work for me for the day. I can get any material I want I design my gown, they'll sew it. I design the bridesmaids' gowns, they'll sew it. And they could sew 6, 7 dresses in a day. That's what they do. They sew 25 dresses in a day. You know what I mean? That's the job. So by him giving me a day, that enabled me to have the wedding gown and all the bridesmaid gown. And he says, and the guys, they just go to rent a tuxedo. It takes a couple hours and you're done. So that took care of that. And I couldn't believe it. And the wedding place, the Leonards, they do everything. You know what I mean? They do the flowers, the food, the whole bit. I was in shock. I didn't even know the guy. I didn't even know. So anyway, I was so nervous. I made a very nice wedding gown. And the Saturday before the wedding was on Sunday. Saturday, that was 2 weeks later, I could not get into the wedding gown. I had gained so much weight because I was a wreck, right? I was a wreck. So my husband had to go out and get me a corset so I can fit. And I could just before we went to the wedding place, he's going like this, trying to fit me into this corset so I can get into the wedding gown, of which I made 2 weeks before because I gained so much weight. I was a wreck, absolute wreck. But anyway, we get to the wedding place, and it was really magnificent because the curtains that look like this, like scallop things. I was standing here, and they had a round circle curtain of scallop that was all the way down that you don't see me, I'm inside. And then everybody would walk into the chapel where the huppah was. This is a really Jewish wedding. And they got all situated. And then as the da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, that beautiful music, the light hit me. And then the curtain, and you see a silhouette, and then the curtain raises nice and slow. And then my my father comes and takes my hand and walks me halfway. And then my husband, this is all planned, these guys, they have the whole thing planned. And then my husband comes halfway down and takes me, and then we walk up, and then they do the whole thing with the rabbi, with the huppah, and walking around 7 times and the whole bit. And everybody was so happy, and everybody came. Nobody wanted to miss this thing, Anyway, it was a great wedding, and one of my aunts made me a big can of cookies. And I was just loving these cookies. Matter of fact, while I was at the wedding, everybody was eating, there was an orchestra. And my cousin said to me, and you know what happened? They had these derma. It's like a sausage, but not really. It's a kind of Jewish thing, and it was on everybody's plate. And I love that stuff. So after I ate mine, then I had to walk around to see who didn't eat theirs yet, And I was eating from everybody's plate who didn't eat theirs, because I figured I paid for the wedding. Right now, it's, the money he spent is my money too, because, after all, right? So the bottom line is, I wanted everybody's derma that didn't eat it. So I'm eating these dermas, and my cousin says to me, look, your husband's singing to you. And I look up, and there is my husband with the microphone at the orchestra singing, more than the greatest love the world has known. This is the love I give to you alone. I had to take the food out of my mouth. I felt very embarrassed. You know what I mean? So I walked up to where he was singing, and he was just so lovingly singing to me, and it was just wonderful. Anyway, we leave the wedding to the honeymoon place, and I'm eating those cookies like ravaging, and my husband halfway through, he stops the car, opens up the window on this side, takes the can and cookies, and he said, I've had it. That's the end of this eating like this. And he throws the cookies out. These are delicious cookies, I want you to know. Throws them out the window. But they were almost all gone, so it wasn't so bad. But still, I can't believe it. I should have known the guy was acting like he loved me. But all right. Anyway, we had a nice little 2 or 3 day honeymoon. We came back because he wasn't off from work yet. He gets 5 weeks paid vacation. So when it came to the time he had his vacation, then he took me to Puerto Rico for our honeymoon. But he couldn't do it that time because that was such a quick, wedding thing. But anyway, now I'm married to a Jew, right? Everybody's happy. And I never thought I could get a baby. Never thought, because I was a little wild teenager, and I never knew when I was going to be pregnant. It was not so good. But then I got married to this guy, and I tried to have a baby, and I couldn't have a baby. So I knew I couldn't have a baby. And I told my husband, Burton, that, you sure you want to marry me? I can't have any children. And he said, that's okay, I don't care. I said, all right. 3 weeks later, I get pregnant with my son, Mitchell. which I had. And so I was able to get pregnant. It's just God was watching over me for the right guy at the right time to do the right thing. So I wasn't so excited about it, but then we figured his parents never had a baby, my parents never had a grandchild. You know, I would be the first grandchild, so that's exciting, you know, what the heck. And it was going to be a boy, and that's even more exciting. So everything was good. We had the baby, and we realized we wanted to get a house to live in. So we went out to Amityville, Long Island. That was before the movie. And this is 1970. Went out to Amityville to try to buy a house, and we put money down on a house, and it fell through. And I was so heartbroken. But my husband said, you know, I was in the Vietnam era, and at that time I was stationed in Irvine, California. And I hope you don't mind if I sit for a minute. I was stationed in Irvine, and I love California, and I love the orange blossoms from the trees and the smell and the ocean. Why don't we move to California? And I said, to leave all my family, to leave all my relatives? How could I do such a thing? And he says, listen, we'll do it on our 5 weeks paid vacation. If you don't like it, we'll come back. So that sounded okay. So we ended up moving to Palm Springs. Why Palm Springs? I'll tell you why. Because we thought that's where all the rich people live. And I was a fashion designer, and I thought I could get good work over there. And we had no idea in April how hot it would be in Palm Springs in July. I mean, they don't tell you that. So we went to Palm Springs, and I right away went to the synagogue because we left on the first day of Passover because I wanted to say goodbye to all my relatives. And in New York, all the relatives get together for a Passover Seder, and it was spectacular. And that way I was able to say goodbye to everybody at one shot. And we said goodbye, and we got this van that we bought, and we fixed it up for us to sleep in the van with our little baby, and we left. But I planned on being in Palm Springs, Israel. You know, we left New York, Egypt, to Palm Springs, Israel, on the exact day of the end of Passover. And it was Friday night, and we got in there. No, the truth is, we would get there a day earlier. So we didn't want to get there a day earlier, so we stayed one day in Mesa, Arizona. And the reason I'm going to mention that is because we went to a trailer park and looking around and seeing what they had over there, and somebody said to me, you don't want to live in that trailer park. There are Mormons who live there. I never heard the word Mormon in my life till that time when I was in Arizona. Never heard the word. Okay? I said, what's a Mormon? Oh, you don't want to know about Mormons. Oh, they're terrible. They're this, they're that, da-da-da. All right, that's all I knew about Mormons. Okay? So, I mean, I'm just at the first time I heard the word. But who cares? I don't want to be anything but a Jew. So anyway, I go the next day. We get to Palm Springs, and I walk into the synagogue, and they didn't want to let me in. I was in shock. I said, what's the matter? Well, you're flip-flops, you're wearing you're not dressed. Everybody else had mink coats in that place, okay? This is Palm Springs Synagogue. We did look a little ratty. We lived in in a van for an entire week. You know, we didn't look like you know what I'm saying? We looked like maybe little hippies, maybe today. But not so much, but a little bit like hippies. Anyway, they felt, am I half through? Okay. They felt that I wasn't good enough to be in their synagogue. Well, I said, are you serious? Are you serious? I could recite this whole thing in Hebrew. What are you telling me I don't belong in the synagogue? And I made a big stink. So finally, they let me come in and sit in the back row. But they wouldn't let us stay for the only Shabbat and all the stuff that they have. But I want to tell you something. When we left New York, a Christian friend of my husband said to me, don't worry, when you get to where you're going, you go to your place of worship and they'll help you get settled. Well, these Jews did not help me get settled. They were very mean. And my husband had $10,000 in his pocket at that moment, okay? So it wasn't like we were poor. We just moved to a new place that we didn't know. But anyway, we ended up buying a mobile home, and we ended up, living there and whatever. And I started making fabulous clothes for Lucille Ball and her friends. and I made a lot of money. And I was the first one who started doing mother, daughter, and baby clothes. I mean, mother, daughter, and doggy clothes. And I made little costumes for dogs. Could you imagine that in 1970? You know? And that worked out very well for about a year. But going through a summer in Palm Springs was horrific. And we would vacation in San Diego. And I said to Burton, what are we, idiots? Why are we living here when there's a San Diego? So we decided to move to San Diego. And it was the most exciting thing because we got in a trailer. I mean, we had a trailer with a double expando. We called up a truck. The truck comes. They move in your double expando. And they drive down the highway. And you follow them in your car. Amazing. We get to where we're going in San Diego. They set up your mobile home. They open it up. You walk in. You go in the refrigerator and open the door. Take out your food. Go put your baby to sleep. Open the drawer. No movie, no nothing, no boxes, no nothing. That is the only way to go. I'm telling you, it was fantastic. But we lived in the trailer park for a while. And I didn't want to sew no more. I can't stand it. So I decided to become a metal sculptor. Because I wanted to do little ceramics and stuff. And we went to a school, and they had these tin cans with hole punched in it. And I said, how do you do that? And they showed me how to take a torch and poke the holes in the can and make it into something pretty. And my husband says, there's money in that. So he runs out and buys me the torch and the stuff and everything. Right away when my husband sees money, he just runs, he sees a potential of me making money. He runs out and acts upon it. And so I started doing metal sculpture. But you know, the trailer park wasn't happy with that. They don't like me having the torch and everything in the little tiny spot in the trailer park. So they made me, that's what I ended up becoming. That's one of my last pieces. But let me tell you, that's not the first one. The first ones were the one, do you have the ones with the metal, the tin can ones? The newspaper articles with the tin cans? You know? But anyway, yeah, that's how I started, right there. Fame as much as money is the reward for the sculpture. Yeah. But anyway, so I started doing metal sculpture, and they would not let me do it at the trailer park. So my husband was forced to buy a house. And we ended up buying a house in Linda Vista. And the reason I liked this house was a dinky house compared to the trailer. The trailer was a nice, modern, beautiful trailer. But the house, when I walked in the backyard, there I saw the whole ocean view. I saw SeaWorld Tower, the whole ocean view. I saw the fireworks, the whole business. I said, I'm taking the house. Because the garage was in the backyard. So the gate closed up, you have privacy, and I'm on a canyon, you know? And so it was really nice. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story is one little part that I forgot. When we were in the trailer park, I had my second child, and I had nobody to help me with my first. And these Baptists started to be friendly with me. Even though I knew better not to be friendly with Christian people, I was stuck. So that was me as a fashion designer. I don't know what they're putting up there. But anyway, the bottom line is, this is a very important story. These friends in the trailer park asked me if I would go to their vacation Bible school. And I says, no, I don't want to learn about Jesus Christ. And they said, no, we're learning about the Old Testament. You need to come and help us teach about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and all that. And I know about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I knew all that stuff. So I says, okay, but I don't want to see Jesus Christ anywhere. I don't want to see no crosses. Okay, fine. I go there, and in a Baptist church, you don't go into the church for your classes. There's like a building on the side that has the different classrooms. So I went in there, and I taught Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Moses, and all this stuff, and Joseph. And I had a grand time, and everybody thought I was the smartest thing, and of course I was. But one day, they said to me, could you please go in the chapel and get us some songbooks? And now they're my friends, you see, so I wasn't thinking. So I walked in the chapel, and there was a big wooden cross on the wall. I said, what am I doing here? So I didn't even get the songbooks. I turn around immediately. I don't know what you're showing there. But I turn around immediately, and I run out the door. But as I was running out the door, in came a man who knew who I was, but I didn't know who he was. He was the minister, but I didn't know who he was. And he looks at me, and he says, now, I'm this close, you know, maybe a foot away from his face to my face. And he says to me, why don't you believe in Jesus Christ? And I did. For 1 hour. 1 hour I went into this like this, and I didn't know what happened. I was just hyperventilating. It was just unbelievable. And at the end of that hour, I knew Jesus was my Savior. Period. End of story. Maybe like Paul, maybe like, Saul, did when, and it was just, it was, Alma, but I mean, I didn't see anything. It was unbelievable. I knew Jesus was my Savior. So the next week I got baptized, and it was the most fabulous thing because I found out no matter how bad I am, I'm still baptized. I don't have to worry. I don't have to do no work. I'm saved by grace. This is terrific. And I'm always going to be saved for the rest of my life, no matter if I become terrible. So this was all great. I was so happy. And then but this is just before we moved. And we moved to San Diego, and we moved to a place where the next Sunday, I went to the Baptist church where I lived. And I was shocked. Because in this Baptist church was all black people, and they were with hallelujah, hallelujah, singing up and down and jumping up and down. And I said, boy, that's not the Baptist church I was in Spring Valley. I was in shock. So I went down the street, and there was a Nazarene church. So I went into the Nazarene church, and they were going to a Billy Graham convention, and they invited me, and so I went. Okay, and then I joined them, and right away when they found out I was a fashion designer, they had me teach at their Nazarene college, and I got a job, and my husband just graduated to become an electrician. They hired him as electrician. So everything was going fine. But it was very interesting to me because the Nazarenes did not believe like the Baptists believe. Okay? That was a shock because I thought they were Jews and they were Christians. And I thought that Christians loved one another. Love one another as Jesus loves you. Try to find, all that, So when I found out the Nazarenes didn't like the Baptists, and the Baptists didn't like the Jehovah's Witnesses, and the Jehovah's Witnesses hated the Protestants, and the Protestants really hated the Catholics, and everybody's hating everybody. And says, what? Where's this love one another stuff of Jesus? I was really in shock. And then one day I had a neighbor across the street who invited me to go to Relief Society to do arts and crafts. And I says, look, I'm a professional artist. I don't need arts and crafts, right? Okay, no, I'm not going. So then one day she comes over and she says to me, we're going to have a dinner and a show. Remember when the church used to have dinners and shows and what they call road shows and all that stuff? So I says, dinner and a show? I could go to dinner and show. I could handle that. So I went to the dinner and show. I was in shock to see the caliber of women that were in the Relief Society. It reminded me of when I was a girl and my mother was in the Jewish sisterhood. These were great, these are doctor, lawyers, and Indian chiefs who were, when I say Indian chiefs, I mean, great women. They were great women. And these were all, and I wanted to be like them. Right? And they're singing and dancing on stage and they're having a grand old time. So I said to my husband, I want to be part of this group. So my husband says, fine, I don't care what you're part of. So I went the next week to the Nazarene church and I said, you can't believe what a fabulous group of women I found. Oh, tell us about it. Well, they do this and this. Well, what are they? Well, they're Mormons. Mormons? Oh, that's the worst. Oh, they're polygamists. They're this and this and this. And terrible, terrible things about Mormons. Well, I didn't know that. So I go back to my friend and I says, well, what about this stuff that you do and all this stuff? She says, no, we don't do things like that. You want to hear the missionaries? They'll tell you the truth. So I says, okay, we're going to play this game, right? So what I did is I had the two young missionaries, one from Idaho, one from Utah, 19 years old, right? They sat on one side of the table and invited the minister of the Nazarene church to come over, sit on the other side of the table. And I'm sitting there right there, and I'm saying, okay, I'm going to ask you guys some questions. So I says, who's God? Who knows what God looks like? Well, the two young whippersnappers over here, they knew exactly what God looked like. He looked like a man. And they gave me reasons why. First of all, this guy Joseph Smith saw the two personages. They looked like a man. In the Bible, it says God created man in his own image. That makes sense. Yeah, I believe that. The minister says, what? God is omnipotent. He has no form. He has no nothing. I said, but it says God, in Moses, God talked to Moses face to face. Well, that's a figurative of speech. And that's okay. Next, I asked a question. That's number 2. Okay, now don't forget, the minister's around 60 years old. He's supposed to know everything. These 2 kids, what do they know? They're 19, right? Okay, so what happens is, I asked the next question. I said, what's the purpose of life? Right? These missionaries knew exactly. You're born, you're tested, you go back to, you come from God, and they told us the whole plan of salvation. Fabulous, sounds great to me. The minister, what are you talking about? Nobody knows. Nobody knows this. I said, yeah, but they know it. What do you mean nobody knows it? Nobody knows where, about, who could know what God looks like? Who could know the plan of anything? Who could know? They knew it. They knew it for sure. So I says, I have 2 boys. I want my 2 boys to be like that. So unfortunately, I got fired from the school. My husband got fired as a, they didn't want us. When I went to school to teach about, I told everybody about how great the Mormons were, and they didn't like that at the Nazarene school. They thought that was not so good. But anyway, so what happened is I tried to join the Mormon church, right? And I went for 6 months through a bunch of missionaries because I had so many questions. And finally, the mission president comes to my house and says, we've had it. No more missionaries. I says, why? You're corrupting the missionaries. We can't have them come to your house anymore. Because I asked them questions, how could you be 19 and never have sex before and all this kind of stuff, and I said, don't you want to know about things like this? And they kind of thought that was a little rough. So anyway, one day this lady in church pulled me, and then don't forget, in sacrament, I used to go into sacrament meeting, and they would be talking, and they would say something, and I'd go, how do you know that? What makes you so sure? Right out loud in sacrament meeting. And people didn't like that so much, So one day this lady calls me over, and she tries to explain to me, here you are, a very good, famous metal sculpture. You're doing great work. Everybody knows about your work. Now, I want to see your metal sculpture, so I come to your house, and I'm looking at this metal sculpture, and I say, oh, why is that so big? Why is that so small? Why is this like this? Why is this like this? After 10 minutes, you're going to say, get the heck out of my house. Either you want to come and see my stuff or you don't. And a light bulb hit, in my brain saying, oh, why am I questioning everything? Maybe that's not good. So I ended up finally, I didn't finally, because the bishop said I had to be good for 6 months before he'd let me join. So after 6 months when I was good and I didn't interrupt sacrament, and I tried to raise my hand for asking a question during Sunday school and Read Society, of which I backfired from that. It's very hard for me to raise my hand. But I do not yell out at sacrament too much anymore, But anyway, the bottom line is I finally joined the church, right? And here I am going to church, and I'm very, very excited about being a Mormon. I know Joseph Smith, and I got to tell you this. You know how they say, you bear your testimony? I know Joseph Smith saw God the Father and Jesus in the grove of trees. I was there. Now, how could I say I was there? Think about the MTC. What do? Right? We go to learn about the country we're about to go into. And we study about that, and then we get prepared, and then we go. Right? Well, what do you think coming to Earth life is? You learn, I'm going to be born into a Jewish family. It's 1946. I saw maybe 100 years before. So I saw when Joseph Smith saw God the Father and Jesus. I was up there. I was watching what was going on. I saw the whole Holocaust. Even as a child, when I used to take a shower, I used to get nervous when the shower would come on, thinking, oh, is this going to be gas or is it going to be water? And I used to say that before I even knew about the Holocaust, just because that memory was in my brain of looking down to earth, and being prepared to come into the religion that I was going to be coming into. You prepared to whatever group you're going to be. But anyway, I have such a strong testimony that I know Jesus is the Christ. I know Jesus is my eldest brother, and maybe all of us was also when Jesus was born. Because remember they say all those angels were singing? Who do you think the angels were? All of us who was up in heaven. That's who the angels were. So we were all there too for that. And we just have a veil put over our head so we don't really know it. But how much more time do I have?
How's everybody doing? How are the camera guys doing? We're good. You guys are good? Yeah. This is a real key part, so yeah.
Okay, keep going. Okay, so the beauty of this is, I love, there was a Doctrine and Covenant thing that if you choose the right, God will bless you. If you don't choose the right, you have no promise. God will give you what you want if you choose the right. And I'm figuring, who do I want to be accountable to? I want to be the one to get all the gifts. I like all the presents. I like all the blessings. Who's going to be great enough to give me all the blessings I want? Only God, right? So all I have to do is choose the right, and God's going to give me all these blessings. So why not be a Mormon? This is the best thing I could do. You know what I mean? And then the other thing is, I was going to Sunday school, and one man in Sunday school said, "Woe to a woman in childbearing age who doesn't raise any more children." And I had 2 boys, and I had a business. But I said, okay, I'm going to try for a girl. Maybe I'll have a girl. And I was 34 years old, and I said, okay, and I had Serena, okay? And I was very happy about it, and that was great. But then, 2 years later, I had Nicole, and 2 years later, I had Brigham, and 2 years later, I was pregnant again. I'm 250 pounds. I'm teaching seminary. The whole thing is horrendous. And, you know, I was the best seminary teacher. Think about it. Think about it. I weighed 250 pounds. I could hardly move, right? But I'm smart like anything, right? But at 250 pounds, the kids come into seminary. This is early morning seminary, and they're all kind of asleep, and they're going, oh, I got to be here, you know. You know how they come into seminary, oh, you know. They can't stand it. And I start out, right? We are the rising generation, rising high, rising high. And I only weigh 202 now, so you could imagine when I'm 250, okay? They would start laughing their heads off. I mean, they couldn't handle it. They were laughing so hard. But think about it. That woke them up, right? That woke them up. And then I would make the stories so provocative that they listened every minute that I talked. But it was very good. But I learned a lot of stuff, and I really enjoyed my time. And I love getting revelation from God. That's the other thing that's so important of this church, is having God talk to you one-on-one. That is fabulous. You get on your knees. You know, everybody could do it. All you have to do is get on your knees in the morning when it's quiet, have a book in front of you, your journal in front of you with a pen. You have your scriptures next to you just in case. And you say, "Dear Heavenly Father, what would you have me do today?" And then you just be quiet. And the ideas will come in your head, and you just write it down. And sometimes you're writing down some stuff, you know, just like whatever. But then after a while, it starts coming to you what God wants you to do. And as you read it later, you see where it clicks in, where God talks to you. And if you see, because God really wants to have you work for him, and God really wants you to do things. And if you want to do it and show him you want by having a pen in your hand and ready to write down what he tells you, he usually does tell you. And it's a fabulous thing. And I love that, but not always. Sometimes I don't want to know. You know, there's a lot of times when I'm lazy, I get up in the morning, I don't want to know what God wants me to do. I want to lay in bed and don't talk to me. Okay? Well, one day I was laying in bed, and God talked to me anyway. And he says, "I want you to go to French Morocco, Africa, and I want you to go to Fez, where your mother was born, and I want you to go into the cemetery, and I want you to copy all the names off of the cemetery." I says, "Are you kidding me? First of all, I'm a woman. Second of all, I'm a Jew. Third of all, I'm an American. You know how many people in the Middle East like women, Jews, and Americans? Okay? Not a good combination." I says, "There's no way I'm going. I'm not going." And God says, "Oh, you're not going, Jonah, huh?" So, I'm not going. Well, anyway, my daughter gets an opportunity to go to Israel, and this is another daughter, Nicole. They all went anyway, but Nicole went at this time. And I said, okay, here's what we're going to do. I have a lot of relatives in Israel. I am going to go to Israel with my daughter, and I'm going to visit all these relatives, and we're going to find out who died in the cemetery, and we'll write it down, and at least I'll find some people in the cemetery, and it'll be great, right? Great. I go to Israel, and I go to the Mormon church, the BYU Jerusalem, the first time, very nice. Second time I went to the church in Tiberias. There's a Mormon church in Tiberias. And as I was going to that church, they ask you, what's your name, why are you here, and all this. And I told them, and I'm doing genealogy, and my mother's from Morocco, Africa. Morocco? We just went to Morocco last year. We had this fabulous tour guide. All this stuff like this. And they tell me who the tour guide is, right? I meet and they tell me to go meet him. I go meet this tour guide. He happens to be a relative of mine, which I didn't know, who after you go 5 generations back and 5 generations this, we're related, somehow. And he says, this week he's not working because the soccer games are playing and nobody wants to tour on the soccer games. We in America go for football, but everybody else goes for soccer, okay? So the whole world stops when there's a soccer tournament going on, right? So I said, okay, and he's going to take me. And at this time, I had a millionaire son named Mitchell who gave me this credit card that I could just go like this, and I never had to pay it back. That's always nice to have a son who could do that. So I had this credit card, and so we went to a travel agent, and it cost $10,000, the 3 of us, to go to Morocco. Because Israel doesn't have any flights to Morocco. There's no way. They don't go to these Muslim countries. But they go to Spain. So I had to go to a plane to Spain, and then from Spain, they went to Casablanca, from Casablanca to Fez. Well, I get to the cemetery, and there's no cemetery because the king didn't like the idea of the big Jewish cemetery being in the middle of town. Because in the old days, when my mother was there, the cemetery was in the outside of town. But now, 70 years later, 60, whatever, how long it was, they built around this place, and now it's choice land, right? Okay, now it's choice land. So the king didn't want all these tombs in the middle of the city, so they threw them out there's no Jews left in Morocco. They threw them all out in 1956. But that's how they got to Israel, because Israel had a boat, and they just took all the Moroccans to the kibbutzes. But anyway, neither here nor there. The bottom line is I got there, and there was no way to see the names on the cemetery, and I was so sad. But there was a little old man there whose job it was, who gave himself the job of copying every name on every tombstone that was in Hebrew or Arabic or Jewish or French or whatever, and put it all in French, which is readable, because French has the same syllables as English, and you could read it, and you only have to know the word for born or death or whatever, or parent's name or whatever. I got everything, and I said, "Wow, this is terrific." And the man said, "Well, I can't let you have all my work." So my tour guide says, "Well, come on with me. Let's go to something to eat and something to drink, and we'll let these 2 women just look at them." So me and my daughter are flashing every picture, one after another, every page. And we didn't even get done by the time they came back. And plus our cameras got full, and we couldn't take any more pictures. So we came back the next day and did the same thing and finished it all up. I got every single person in that cemetery who was born, died, their parents, the birthday, death date. Can you imagine that? God sent me on a mission, and I did it. I came home from that trip. Everybody in the ward helped me put the name on Excel, so we had it in alphabetical order and all this stuff. I went to the temple, and we started doing it like crazy. There's only one little problem. The church doesn't allow you to do anybody who's in a Muslim country. Okay? Morocco is a Muslim country. So I didn't know what to do because the church would not accept it. So one day in the morning, God said to me, "Go tell them it's French Morocco," because it was French Morocco at the time that my parents were living there. So I went to the family history department. I wrote in French Morocco. Guess what? French Morocco is a Muslim country. No, you can't do the work. Then God said to me, "Put down France." And I said, "France? That's lying." And Sister Beasley was there, Sister Riddle was there, and there was other woman there who said, "God's telling you to do this." And I says, and then we talked about Nephi. Why do we have the Book of Mormon? Why do we have the Book of Mormon? To learn from it. So Nephi was going to try to get the plates, and he ended up having to kill somebody to get it, remember? And he says, "How could I kill? I've never killed anybody before. How could I kill? This is impossible. I can't do it." And God says, "I brought you here to this point. You got to do it. This is what you got to do." God says, "Write France." I told the people behind me, I said, "What do you think we should do?" "Do what God told you." I wrote France. All the names got accepted. I couldn't wait. Me and my husband went to the temple. We did 160 names each, baptizing the same. We went from 2 o'clock in the afternoon all the way till 8 at night, just baptizing, boom, 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 one after another. And then we did all their work, and then and the whole temple helped me do the work. They would get the whole temple. Everybody came into the temple. They would do our names. You know what I mean? It was just fabulous. And every week I turned in another 150 names, and it was great. Until the church said, "What is this? You can't do this. This is you can't write this down. You can't do," and they tried to stop my family search thing. So I can't be stopped. So I put my husband's name down. So now I started a new account. My husband kept going, boom, 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 and then guess what? They stopped my husband. So I figured, well, Nicole is not active in the church. I'll put her name down. Boom, I did her. Boom, 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 boom. Then they stopped that. Then Brigham, I figured I'll use his name. So I did that. Boom, 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 boom. There was about 30,000 names, and I did about 2,800. 28,000, whatever it is. 30,000, I did 28,000, right? With the help of the temple and all the people in the stake. It was a great thing. People were doing my names like crazy. And people were saying the spiritual experiences they were feeling from this, because this is God's work. It's like telling Nineveh. Nineveh was saved, right? Jonah wasn't too happy about it, but Nineveh, the whole city of Nineveh, was saved, right? All these people, Jewish people in that cemetery, were saved. That's what God wanted, all right? They were all ready for it. We did it. But then they stopped me when I had about 2,000 names left, and they wrote a letter to the bishop, and they wrote a letter to the stake president and said, "We're going to have to excommunicate you. You don't want to listen. We told you not to do it. You're still doing it." And don't forget, the bishop was helping me. The stake president was helping me. The temple president was helping me. They all knew the whole story. They all knew the French. They all knew the whole thing. It wasn't like I was cheating nobody, It's just I had to cheat the computer. You know what I mean? It's the computer who would throw out the word Morocco, right? So as long as I didn't cheat the computer, you know what I'm saying? The people weren't cheated. But anyway, they finally stopped the whole thing. And the bishop said, "Don't worry, the church can't excommunicate you. Only the bishop or the stake president could excommunicate you, and we're not excommunicating you, but please stop it for a time." I said, "You want me to stop working 6 to 10 hours a day on the computer and just be retired and go to the beach every day and go to movies? Is that what you're asking me?" And they said, "Yes, we really don't want you to do it anymore." I said, I was told by my priesthood, absolutely, I cannot do it. So guess what? If I go up to heaven and see those people that I didn't do, I point to you and I says, "Don't blame me. I did it the best I could until I got stopped." So anyway, all is good. I love my life. I love the Lord. All those people up there, by the way, my oldest son is dead, okay? And the reason I bring this up is because he came and talked to my daughter once, and he told my daughter, "Wow, you can't believe what's up in heaven waiting for mommy to come home. All those people are up in heaven, so excited. That means I'm going to die soon." No, doesn't mean you're going to die soon, but you did a lot of work, and the people are very thankful to you for what you did. And that's what the message was it not? Huh? So anyway, I'm very, very thankful. I don't know how much I want to talk anymore, but I love this church. I'm so thankful I'm a member. I know that there's life after death. I know that we have families are forever. I painted a beautiful mural in my home of Jesus and God the Father with all my family standing there coming back to God. And so far 3 are up there. But I'm very thankful that I know who I am, why I'm here, where I'm going, what's my job, what's my responsibility, to be a mother in Zion, to be a grandma in Zion, to do my part and to pass the test. So when I go back to Heavenly Father, He's going to say to me, "Well done, thy good and faithful servant." What more do we want? Thank you very much for listening to my story. I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, is it done? You know, you ever see these shows?
Good.
You ever see those shows where they're up there and they got to stand there like this, like a dumbbell for 5 minutes before they finally, shut the thing off? Right? Was it okay? Was it okay?
That was awesome.
Really?
That was incredible. Thank you guys for coming. Is she incredible? I mean, what a powerhouse. Yeah. She was a little afraid to say too much, and I said, speak it. This is the place we speak it. So yeah, I thought it was great. How'd you guys feel? So you guys know her? Great. Good to have you guys here tonight. We were trying to do the webcast. There was trying to get the right link. Once they stop it, there were 2 segments because the thing there had one little problem. Then I had to start it again during the intro. But you could actually tune in and watch the whole thing. We'll probably take it down, edit it, and put it back up. And so if you want to watch the whole webcast and share it to others, what's great about this is now her testimony, her conversion story, can be shared to people throughout the world. See, I don't think have you ever recorded this before? Not audio or video, it hasn't ever been recorded. Can you imagine this story never being recorded, never being shared? And now we have it on YouTube. So once we get it up there, if you guys would Facebook it and share it, it can convert people, it can change people's lives, people that need to hear this specific story, that are dealing with this. God can work miracles when this is out there. So that's why this is so great. So Serena was, saying that her mom was going to be up here and let's do this fireside. So thanks for supporting this fireside tonight. Yeah.
What do you search for on YouTube?
Well, why don't we do it like this? Why don't we get the YouTube, we'll get it all fixed up, and then we'll send you guys the link. And we'll get it out there. How about that? I'm trying to get this website together so that we have everything we do at one website you can go to. The reason I don't really like to broadcast just on Facebook and things like that is because they can shut you down, And I want to have a website that we own, that whatever happens to Facebook, whatever, you get flagged for crazy reasons, and then you have to explain yourself. If there's a Mormon Tabernacle song that comes through and someone wants to flag you, you get flagged, and you're pretty much guilty till proven innocent. Right now how it works. So we want to have a website going. So we just got the screens in. Angela back there, she actually put the money up for the projectors and the screens because we're going to be doing Operation Underground Railroad, which is trafficking, human trafficking. We're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing firesides on a regular basis. I want to get conversion stories. The biggest thing about anything is you hear success stories. We always hear success stories about millions of dollars in this and changing life in this way. How about the church changing lives? How about the gospel changing lives? So that's why I wanted this testimony on, so that we could have this, so that this could hit certain people and we could share it with so many people out there. So yeah, so get in touch with it. Let's make sure you're in contact with everybody here, and then we'll go ahead and edit that, get that, and then you can share that link to other people. So any questions, any comments? Okay. Well, thank you again for sharing your testimony with us tonight. You see, incredible woman, powerhouse. Wow. Yeah.
The only thing I was disappointed with is that the best part of her story she didn't share.
Okay, do you guys want to hear the best part of her story?
What was the best part?
How Dad joined the church. That's the best part.
Okay, do you guys have another 5 minutes? Do you want to hear the best? Can you share that? Okay, go ahead.
You're going to put that on the video?
It's still going.
Oh, wow. Okay, I got to tell you, remember I told you when they said, woe unto a child, woe to a woman in childbearing age who doesn't have any more children? They also said, you can't have all the blessings unless you get married in the temple to your husband. My husband wasn't a member. But in those days, the missionaries would come to my house every week afterwards because there was a part member family, you see. And in those days, missionaries were allowed to work, okay? So we were building a second addition on our house. So the 2 missionaries would come, and they'd break down walls, or they'd paint the eaves of the house, all these things that you could kill yourselves with, and they'd be up there on the roof going like this, and they'd do all the... And of course, my husband was thankful that all the free labor, so he's willing to have them over for dinner, the least he could do, and then let them talk a little bit, because all that's free labor, right? And so as he was talking and as he was learning these things, but my husband wasn't interested. He was happy for me, but, he doesn't want to give up his stuff. Well, one day the missionaries came over, and me and my husband were doing metal sculpture, and the 2 missionaries were on this side of the table, and we were on this, and God speaks to me. And God says, tell your husband that you will never go to the movies for the rest of your life, and he will join the church. Remember I told you there's a big problem of having to learn what God talks sounds like. You know, when God talks to you, now that you know that God talks to you, then you hear his voice, then you're in big trouble when you hear him, right? So I'm trying to say to myself, well, why are you saying that? I don't want to give up nothing, and how do I know it's you talking and all this kind of stuff, you know. I knew it was God talking, but, you know, you try to think of anything, you know, and especially when God tells you to do something you don't want to do. Okay, then I kind of try to ignore it. Then God says the second time, this is all like in a 5-minute period, says, tell your husband that you will not go to the movies for the rest of your life, and he will join the church. Now I'm really arguing with the voice. What does that have to do with anything? Why giving up movies is he going to join the church? And that's the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. Then God said that for the third time, tell your husband that you will not go to the movies for the rest of your life, and he will join the church. Okay? And I said to the 2 missionaries, you know, and to my husband, I says, you know, isn't this a ridiculous thing? God is talking to me. And God just told me to tell you that if I don't go to the movies for the rest of my life, you will join the church. Now, isn't that ridiculous? My husband said to the missionaries, get a paper and pencil. They got a paper and pencil. He goes, no movies, no restaurants, no television, no movies, restaurant, television. I mean, you know, and then he says, and you got to be 160 pounds. I'm 200 and something. No, I don't have to be 130 pounds. I got to be 130 pounds. I was 165 at that time. Oh, and no dancing, right. So it was no restaurants, no television, no movies, and no dancing. No, he didn't say dancing. No, he didn't say that. Restaurant, movies, and restaurants. And restaurants, movies, and television. Okay? Anyway, and I had to be 130 pounds by the same time next year. Now, my husband always keeps his word. I didn't know what to say, but the bottom line is I needed to get married in the temple. My husband keeps his word, so I had to say okay. It was horrible, horrible. I was put in a terrible situation. So I signed the paper, and I go for 6 months, didn't go to movies, didn't go to restaurants, didn't watch television. It was horrible life, okay? All right, horrible. But I couldn't lose a single pound. So one day, I was on my knees praying to God, and I said, look, you got me in this situation here. I can't even lose a single pound. What the heck am I going to do? I've tried all these diets, Weight Watchers, and Nutrisystem, and you name it, you claim it. I tried all these diets, nothing works. What am I going to do? And the doorbell rings. I walk to the door. Now, I live in a completely residential area. I mean, house. No apartments, no nothing. Just a residential area, right? This lady comes by to the door. She was maybe 350 pounds. She looked like Aunt Jemima, white. You know, you see her on the bottle? That's what she looked like. And she says, I need a place to stay. Could I move in with you? What? Are you crazy? But all of a sudden, I didn't say amen to my prayer yet, remember? And I says, well, let me tell you, I have a problem. I got to lose this weight by 6 months from now, and I need somebody who will cook all the food, clean all the house, do all the stuff, so I don't have to be tempted, and make me perfect Weight Watcher meals, at tiny, tiny meals, so I could lose weight. She says, I'll do it. What can I say? Right? God sent somebody to the door. So I said, okay, and my husband said, okay, and she cooked brownies and all this delicious. My family was crazy about this lady, right? And she made me these little tiny meals. My food, my house. I got a little tiny, I was starving to death. She put her bed next to the refrigerator in the kitchen. 300 pounds, all right? I couldn't get to the food. I mean, I hated this lady's guts. Hated lady's guts. Could you imagine in my own house, she's not going to let me eat nothing? I mean, I hated this lady, okay? Exactly to the date, I weighed 130 pounds. Now, don't forget, I had to wait a year before I can get baptized. You know, I didn't, my husband goes to the bishop that night and says, okay, my wife weighs 130 pounds. I'm ready to join the church. And the bishop said, okay, you can baptize. He says, do you believe in Joseph Smith? Oh, I don't know, maybe. Do you believe in Jesus Christ? Well, I'm a Jew, I really don't. Okay, baptized that night. I said, are you kidding me? He was baptized that night, okay? He used to come to church every week. I'm 130 pounds, he'd weigh me, You know, I finally found out where the girl came from Georgia. I didn't know she came from Georgia. Came from Georgia. I called up her father. She was only 17, a runaway. I didn't know that. They came and got her and got rid of her. Boy, was I so happy. But the next week, I was 131. So I had to take an enema, you know, whatever you can do to lose the weight the last minute. You know, it was so hard. I couldn't do it. And after 2 or 3 weeks, I just couldn't keep that weight down. It was horrible, horrible. So I weighed 131, and my husband said, that's it, I'm not going to church. You weigh 131. What can I do, right? So I go to church. We only had one car. I went to church with my two boys didn't want to go, but my husband forced them out of the house. We came, we went to church, and while we were in church, I see my husband coming, sweating like a pig with Bermuda shorts and flip-flops. I says, what are you doing here? He had to ride his bike to get there. I says, how come you came? He says, you know, after you guys left, I went to the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, and I says, who am I kidding? I know that church is true. So he came all the way to the church, and he started going regularly. It didn't matter. He said to the bishop, you know, I don't care what my wife weighs. I'm going to stay a member of the church. Boom! I went back up to 200 pounds like nobody's business. But I was the happiest couple of years of my life. But I went to movies. I went to restaurants. I went to everything. I had a great time. But that's the story that she wanted to tell you. But anyway, that's that's how my husband joined the church. It's very scary when you know what God sounds like and you hear his voice when he tells you to do things. I could imagine Joseph Smith, what he went through. Could you imagine having God tell him to do this and this and this, and he had to do it because he knew? And he says, I know, God knows, what can I do? Remember how many times he said something like that? What do you do? What do you do when you're a prophet and God tells you to do things? What do? You have a choice. You either do it or you go against God. Very scary. Very scary choice. So I try not to listen too much. I put earphones on, listen to loud music, whatever I could do. So, because, it's rough. Don't think it's an easy thing. It's very rough. So anyway, that's my story. But I still love the church because I know it's true. Okay, that's it.
All right. Appreciate that. Thank you so much. And thank you guys for coming. Anybody questions? Okay, we'll turn the lights on and we'll give the email address and we'll get the copy of that.
Thank you, Anna, for giving us an opportunity.
All right, thank you for bringing that up. You want to do pictures? We got perfect light up here.
Okay, hurry up, take a picture. Have me up there. Oh, I can't believe it. Hurry up and take a picture. All this time. Where's the microphone? I gotta have the microphone.
When you were talking, were you nervous or did that go away?
It went away after I brought my testimony, then it went away.
Oh, very good.
Because I didn't know how it was gonna start, right? But come on, this is ridiculous.
ready?
The whole time you didn't take a picture.
Now,